We have 80 to 90 decoys set out in the water climbing into the layout boat right now. Ted Hebert from Langsburg, Jerry March from Perry, and myself doing some layout hunting for the open water ducks, the bluebills. We got a great recipe coming up for them, too. The hunting, by the way, duck hunting and goose hunting is open in southern Michigan for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend. We're going to show you how the layout shooters do it, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the Rugged Show.
A big lake like Houghton Lake has an advantage for duck hunters. It attracts two kinds of ducks, the puddle ducks, mallards and pintails that dabble close to shore, and the divers, bluebills, redheads, ducks of the open water. Jerry Martz from Perry is the DNR's waterfowl specialist, and he hunts both kinds of ducks. Today his boat is loaded with 80 open water decoys. The net is to pick up the ducks that are taken. Now, Jerry's bigger boat is painted in a camouflage that matches the wild rice and cattails. He hunts from this boat close to shore for the puddle ducks. In open water, the layout boat is where the hunters sit. Well, actually, they lay down. And this boat is camouflaged a slate gray, which matches the open water. Ted Hebert from Langsburg and I are in another boat as we all head towards the wide open spaces of this big lake. Ted is looking for rafts of bluebills, 1,000 or more. Jerry relies on Ted to locate birds, and it isn't long before he spots a huge raft.
Okay, head that way. See something? I think I got him. There, they're getting up. Where? They're getting up. They're going to be against the sky in a minute.
Today's an ideal day for duck hunting. The wind keeps the ducks flying.
Now, if these were fresh birds, these would be a ride to hunt. He's been burned pretty heavy, although I don't know. I see a lot of white in there.
There's an awful lot of...
a lot of white. That means new birds.
Yeah, there's a lot of birds in there.
Jerry's excited. He's looking over here. He's ready.
Into them now.
Oh, those are bluebills. That whole cloud's bluebills over there.
When we finally get to where they want to hunt, Ted slides into Jerry's boat with the decoys so they can set up. First of all, they position the layout boat. Now, they put this boat upwind of the decoys, and it's anchored on both the front and the back to hold it steady so it won't sway back and forth as the wind shifts. Now, 2 hunters can fit in this boat at one time, laying on their back so they blend in at water level. The boat stays anchored, no paddles, no oars, no motor, so when ducks are knocked down, the fellow in the big boat, called the tender boat, that's upwind about 1/4 of a mile, runs down and picks up the ducks for the layout hunters. Lots of decoys are used in layout shooting, usually about 80, sometimes up to 120. They're not on individual lines with anchors like puddle duck decoys. About 10 or 12 are attached to a mother line, and the whole string is set up with an anchor at each end. So you end up with 7 or 8 strings of decoys downwind from the layout boat. The investment in decoys, well, if you had to buy all these, you're looking at maybe $800. And a lot of the serious layout shooters make many of their own. You can imagine what it's like when the wind picks up, like it often does in the fall. Tangled lines are all a part of layout hunting. They're a part of the challenge which attracts hunters to this kind of hunting. Decoys are set, layout boat is in place, time to climb in. To start, Ted Hebert and I will take the first shift. This is probably the most dangerous part of layout hunting, transferring in and out of the layout boat. Now, today it's not bad. The open water is relatively calm, it's warm. The real danger is in freezing weather when you get a thin layer of ice on the gunnels of the boat, sometimes over the entire layout boat. We get situated, then Jerry and cameraman John Ford back away to watch from a distance. The hunt has just about begun. We lay with the guns across our chests, barrels pointed towards the decoys. Now, granted, this isn't the most comfortable position to be in, but after you get used to having scrunched feet, this reclined posture can be quite enjoyable as long as you're dry and warm. When the ducks come in, you set up quickly and shoot. Otherwise, you lay quietly, scanning the horizon with your eyes. John is taping from another layout boat and quickly watches us miss. The shooting is fast, and John found it was difficult to see what was happening from so far behind us, so he climbed in the layout boat with me. There, that's better. You can see the rows of decoys. The farthest one is about 40 yards, so if the ducks are over the decoys, they're in range. From only a foot or so above water level, it's a challenge to spot those ducks. Right down over there, right over there. 2 ducks coming in fairly high, too far away. Lay still and watch for more. It won't be long. Here they come. No, I think they're going to lift. Oh, here comes 3 more. 3 more from this side. Oh, this one might be. No. They might swing around and take another look. Okay, this one is close right here. There we go. Fast shooting, but that's a dead bird on the water, so I won't call the tender boat in quite yet. It's just floating there. Here comes some more. Working. Boy, there's lots of birds working. Oh, here they're coming this way. We got a group of them. I don't know if they're going to be too high. These are too high. But they might, coming down. I have 2 bluegills on the water now, so we stand up in the layout boat so the tender can see us. That's the signal to come down and pick up our ducks. It's teamwork, layout shooting, which makes it fun. By the way, it's not as dangerous as it looks to stand up in a layout boat. They're incredibly stable. We point out where that last duck is, he picks it up, and by sundown, we had a good mess of ducks for a recipe. Ah, the hunt's over, and we're feeling good.
It was a great day.
Does this classify as a great day, not a barn burner, or?
It was a good hunt. The birds responded well to our setup. Everybody got some shooting and got a few birds. What more did you ask for? We didn't get any limits, but it was a fine day.
It was outstanding. Outstanding! I tell you, I've never had shooting like that before. That is different. Thanks to Jerry Martz and Ted Hebert, I've become a layout shooter, a great way to hunt ducks in Michigan outdoors. Layout shooting. What an experience that was, a lot of fun. And one of the big layout shooting areas in the state down here in the southeast, according to Real Hunting Outlet, deer hunting is up, but fishing, there's just nil to none. Over on the west side of the state, BJ Sporting Goods says that the steelhead fishing is very good. Charter captains are getting their limits. The deer are up. Lakeland Outfitters at Whitehall says perch fishing is phenomenal. Of 7 to 9 inches, steelheading is excellent. Captain Emil Dean says the steelheading is unreal. Everybody's going home with fish. Pier fishing is good, too. Chiefs at Houghton Lake says hunting has slowed down and nobody's fishing right now. Wellman Sports Center at Oscoda says limits of steelhead. Deer hunting is up. Ace Hardware says deer hunting down in the Charlevoix area. They're waiting for ice, and we hear this throughout the North Country. Adrian's is pleased with the deer hunting up around Rogers City. Harry's Place, same story there. Lots of rabbit sign. Nobody's fishing, though. The fishermen over at Bayshore Resort in Escanaba are getting limits of 8 to 12-inch perch. The deer are up from last year. Root cellar deer definitely up. They're waiting for ice. And Dick's Favorite Sports in the Keweenaw Peninsula says deer hunting is up. The rut is slowing down. They have 6 inches of snow in places. But there's some big ones. We have Big Buck Night coming up. And as a prelude to that, let's take a look at our trophy book. Looking back on last year when there was snow in the UP for the opener, take notice of this Iron County buck. Glenn Wunderlich from Utica with a 10-point, massive 10-point with a 23-inch spread. That's some deer. Now these beams aren't as heavy. They usually aren't in the northern lower peninsula, but Alfred Endert from Gladwin can be proud of his Gladwin County 10-point with 8-inch tines. Clara Carlin from Hesperia hunted Oceana County on the west side. Her 10-point had 7-inch tines, a 19.5-inch spread. And this lucky hunter made history in our trophy book in the muzzleloader division, swept the category at our Stroh's Hunting Awards banquet last February.
Robert Elvert from Ionia. This is the rack with the most points with the muzzleloader. Hold it up there, Bob. That has, according to our system, 19 points with a 10-inch tine. You got it up in Dickinson County in the UP.
Yes. Second day of the muzzleloader season. We hunt migration runways up there. I was sitting on the runway and some does come that weren't on the runway. And they weren't walking towards me. They were walking sort of sideways and away from me. And a vehicle was up there and scared him back by me. And about 5 minutes later, I looked and this buck was coming following the does, and he went right up there and turned around, came right back to me.
Why were you muzzleloader hunting? You didn't connect during gun season?
Yes, I shot a 7-point opening day of the...
So your second deer, you got the biggest muzzleloader here tonight. Muzzleloader deer, congratulations. 19 points, Bob Elvert from Ionia.
Will Bob's deer be shadowed in the 1987 season? Well, we don't know yet, but for now, let's make Bob Elvert our Michigan Outdoors muzzleloading hunter of the week.
The Natural Resources Commission is expected to okay an early catch and release bass fishing season on 7 Lower Peninsula lakes next week. The special season will begin April 1st, and it will be illegal to keep any bass in live wells, baskets, or on stringers. There are still a couple of hundred hunter's choice permits for a special deer season that starts next Tuesday and runs through December 15th in southern Menominee County. For further information, call the DNR office in Stevenson. Now, a deer bear hunter south of Escanaba hasn't gotten his venison yet this season, but he did check in a 427-pound dressed black bear. That's the biggest one ever seen at the DNR Escanaba office. Early indications are that this will be a banner deer season. The Mackinac Bridge Authority says the number of hunters bringing bucks across the bridge is up 25%. And the DNR office in Clare checked in a buck with 5-inch spikes that after close examination was determined by biologists to be a fawn born this year. Lately, I've been hearing more and more talk from gun hunters about ending all hunting a week before the gun deer season opens, leaving kind of a quiet period, they say, for 2 reasons. All the activity with bow hunters in the woods prior to the opener wises up the bucks. And 2, that bow hunters are skimming off the trophy bucks during that week. Now, frankly, I think both of these ideas are nuts. Even without hunters in the woods, there'd still be lots of activity from gun hunters scouting and building blinds. But the big factor that changes deer activity is the 700,000 hunters that show up on November 15th between 6 and 7 a.m. Archer skimming trophy bucks? Well, they do take a few, but it's darn few. Our Stroh's Hunting Awards entries show that for every trophy buck taken with a bow, 9 are taken with a gun. But gun hunters outnumber bow hunters only 2.5 to 1. Now, the capper is that every year we've been setting records for bucks taken in Michigan, both with gun and with bow. It's kind of like anti-hunting talk, this idea of a quiet period. It just doesn't make any sense.
Sitting in a deer blind all day can be exciting, even if you don't see any bucks. Just stay quiet and keep your eyes open.
Watch your move, because when they look at us, to come in to have a few bites to eat. Boy, look at her nose. That pretty white ring. She's sniffing the air. Boy, she's working her nose hard. Oh, there's 2 fawns. She seems to have a particularly distinct ring around her nose. Might be she's sniffing hard because she, whoops. No, she couldn't see us. Could she? Oh, I tell you, they're sniffing. She looks a little nervous, but she hasn't stomped yet. Yep, there's the stomp. She doesn't like it. She's gonna call her kids. Oh, the hair on her back is raising up. Look at that. She's bothered. Flaring the hair on her back. See her fawns. They don't smell it. They don't notice the danger, but they better follow Mom. Looks like the one wants to put its tail up. Its tail is kind of bristled. But those fawns look like they're looking at each other saying, what's going on here?
You can learn a lot of deer behavior from does and fawns. I can't help but wonder how they're going to do if we have a hard winter, though. There's nothing any of us will be able to do, including the deer. By then, it's going to all be up to Mother Nature.
We have this letter from Mike Dungy of Lake Ann, Michigan. Fred, he says, a DNR officer told me that if I used a bolt action or pump rifle, there wasn't a limit on the number of shells I could hunt with in the gun and clip. Could I have a 10-shot clip and still be legal?
Well, you could in a pump or a lever action or a bolt action. Now, 6-shot clips. This is the maximum number of shells you can have in an auto loader.
Right.
And rifle or shotgun.
Rifle or shotgun.
But in my rifle, for example, it just holds 6 shots anyway. You probably noticed here that there were 5 of them.
I know.
Well,
Go
there was
ahead.
one that
Do
was
it.
empty.
Tell
See,
us the
actually,
story.
we only need one
I know.
shell in this.
You shot a buck with it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you only need 1 shot. I don't know really what you would do with 10 shells.
I'm glad I had to
In
thrash that
automatic.
out of you, too.
Well, anyway, that's the answer to that 6-shot limit in an auto loader, but as many as you want in the other types of actions on deer hunting rifles. Now let's see if you folks can answer this question in our outdoor quiz.
In boating vocabulary, what does the word skull mean? Skull can mean a single boat oar. Two skull means to propel a boat with one oar by working the oar from side to side over the stern.
Harson's Island Managed Waterfowl Marsh, October 1987, probably the last place you'd expect to find a wheelchair user, sitting in a canoe, shotgun in his lap, in flooded corn.
We're finally into the hunting spot. Got number 21. We were the 3rd pick, had a good pick. Now all we have to do is wait for the ducks to get here. Got the decoys set up out here, little clumps, and the ducks should land in between the little clumps, flying into us into the wind. That's what we want them to do.
How long have you been hunting ducks?
I went hunting, first duck hunting I went was when I was 14 and I'm 32 now. So that's, well, last 6 or 8 years mostly. Since I've been in a wheelchair, yeah. I went one time when I was 14 and then didn't go again until I started hunting after I was in a wheelchair.
Now, that happened at what age?
I was 17, hit a car on a motorcycle.
And you were on the motorcycle?
Yeah. That was,
Dave Durrell from Detroit is an amazing guy, living through a broken back, recovering, and then getting into duck hunting. He drives his own car, and with a minimum amount of help, does what he has to do to hunt ducks.
It was. Driving's real easy. It's I steer with my right hand, use a car with an automatic, and then you've got the hand control with the left hand, and you pull it down for the gas, push it forward for the brake. It comes real natural. In fact, it's pretty easy. Getting in and out of the car is harder than driving it is, and that's just a matter of pulling the wheelchair up behind the seats, shoving the seats back. You could drive a van or a wagon or whatever you want now, depending on what type of injury you had. Like I broke my back, and so my hands and upper body is pretty strong. I don't have any problems pulling the chair in or getting in and out of the car. If I had injured my neck or something, I might be using a van because it'd have a lift on it, make it easier to get in and out. You might not be able to pull a car in and out, although I do know some quads that pull their chairs in and out of the cars.
So you have to go duck hunting with a buddy.
I've been trying to figure out a way to go on my own. I'm thinking about getting a kayak and taking my chair right to the water's edge and just kind of crawling down. With the waterproof clothes on, it wouldn't really be any problem, but I haven't found a kayak yet that I liked or had the money to buy a kayak yet. That might be a little closer to the truth. I usually go with a buddy or two, depending on what kind of weather. When it's wavy, 3 is kind of a lot for a canoe. 2 is the ideal amount, because then I can get all the decoys in and the dog and take our canoe chairs and be nice and comfortable. 3, you're just kind of cramped.
Dave Durrell isn't the kind of guy who's going to let his problems cramp his style, though. During the week, he's a supervisor of the Delray Recreation Center for the Detroit Recreation Department. He likes helping people to help themselves. That's the kind of attitude that makes Dave one of those lucky guys who will always find a way to enjoy the outdoors forever.
There's a handgun metallic silhouette shoot Saturday and Sunday at the Berry County Conservation Club at Hastings. Next week is the 1 hour Michigan Outdoors special Big Buck Night 1987. We're planning the most spectacular Big Buck Night ever, filled with great stories of monster bucks, the biggest bucks we can find that have been taken this deer season. Big Buck Night is also a pledge night on PBS. We'll be offering the PBS limited edition art print by St. Clair Shores artist Dave Bowman, Midnight Vigil. Dave will be at Fred Trost Museum at Houghton Lake with this print and with other originals and prints he's painted on hunting and fishing subjects Saturday, December 5th from 10 till 6. Stop by, meet Dave, and see his work firsthand. Saturday night, February 20th in Lansing is the date of our 7th annual Stroh's Hunting Awards banquet, this year at the Lansing Civic Center. And the following Friday night is the Fishing Awards banquet at the Valley Plaza Inn in Midland. That's February 26th. And if you missed a number, you can get it by calling the Michigan Travel Bureau toll-free at 1-800-5432-YES.
Dennis Sawala from Detroit sent us Raisin Duck Rouge. It's featured in our Outdoor Digest this issue, and it's one that John Mackensie up at Coyle's at Houghton Lake prepared for us using some of the bluebills that we got out on that big mystery lake.
It looks like good pieces of meat.
Well, you know, the bluebills, I was a little apprehensive because they're dark meat. Bluebills eat fish, and they can be kind of strong. But first of all, John doused it with some burgundy wine.
2 cans of mandarin oranges. And he adds juice and all to this. And it's going to cook down. The juices and the wine will actually cook right down. Make kind of a sauce here out of the whole thing.
A 2-stage cooking process because that goes into the oven for an hour.
Yep, and
just
his
like
big
that.
commercial oven there.
350 degrees. When it comes out, he says, Dennis says, drain off all the juice.
Yep.
Now that must be where some of the strong fishy flavor is. I imagine. I didn't try any of that. And now look at this. Put a couple beef things in, some
Beef bouillon and mushroom gravy. It sounds like a great combination.
Well, that dark meat of the duck, I think, lends
You're
itself
gonna
to
eat it.
those.
That's right.
And then here goes the more common accoutrements for waterfowl recipes: orange juice and honey.
And honey. Yep, duck lends itself very well here to the orange juice and the mandarin oranges. And raisins. Now these are going to plump up when they cook.
2 tablespoons sprinkled in here.
Seedless raisins.
The lid goes on into the oven for another hour. Then you take it off for the last half hour. That means these have been cooking in here, and then comes the cornstarch, which John mixes in.
Of course, the cornstarch is just for texture. Has very little flavor. Sometimes the cornstarch, you'll need a little salt, but
Little salt?
a little salt to it'll put a little blandness into the food. This will do is thicken the sauce up so it's more like a gravy and less like liquid.
Why is it that so many duck recipes have orange, pineapple, you know, those types of fruits and honey and...
Duck yields itself very well to the flavors of fruit. They go very well together. So it's just a natural combination almost. It's a dark meat instead of a white meat like a breast of a chicken or something.
And here it is. It looks very much like a stroganoff. What do you think, Bob Garner, the Clean the Plate Club chairman?
I think it's a good recipe that does have that fruity flavor, yet it doesn't seem to change the flavor of the duck. I like that, just that little bit of wild hint of the duck. It's not a real strong livery taste. It's just a little wild hint of it. And I might have tried that, adding just a few cherries too.
A few cherries?
Oh, I thought it was great. I'm not real fond of sweet and sour, but you can taste the duck, and it's very, very good.
Well, frankly, I'm not real fond of the diver ducks that do tend to taste fishy.
They're tough.
But I was surprised that this made them quite mild. And, you know, for substitutions, I don't know if you could use this with beef or whatever. But
Sure.
It's great with duck.
Leftover turkey too.
Leftover turkey. What a deal for tonight. Well, folks, whatever you do, I hope on this long weekend you can get outdoors, have a safe weekend. Outdoors is a great place to be. We'll see you next week.
For more information on the subjects you see each week on Michigan Outdoors, 1775.
There. Here comes some more working. Boy, there's lots of birds working. Oh, here they're coming this way. We got a group of them. I don't know if they're going to be too high. These are too high.
Next week on Michigan Outdoors, we have an exciting program, a very special program. It's Big Buck Night, statewide at 8 p.m. For those stations running the show at 7:30, we'll be on with a warm-up show. Then at 8 o'clock, the hour-long PBS special, where we'll see some of the biggest racks of all times and the biggest racks we could locate from the 1987 deer season. Now, this is during the annual PBS December Pledge Festival, so it'll be your chance to acquire the brand-new limited edition Whitetail print by Dave Bowman. This will also commemorate celebrate our 7th Big Buck Night here on PBS. Good time to thank this network for giving hunting and fishing a home on primetime TV. Be a proud night for all of us. If you can't watch the show next Thursday night, be sure to set your VCR. I promise this is going to be a Big Buck Night like you've never seen. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Big Buck Night.
Setup. Everybody got some shooting and got a few birds. We didn't get any limits, but it was a fine day.
It was outstanding. Outstanding! I tell you, I've never had shooting like that before. That is different. Thanks to Jerry Martz and Ted Hebert, I've become a layout shooter, a great way to hunt ducks in Michigan outdoors.